That should have. There, we stupid. Hey guys, welcome back to Triple F Shooting. Today for you we have a product review again. I know this is like 2 in a row, but when you only do like a video a month, anything can happen. We are looking today at the Cylee Wolf EDG. There's been a few other reviews popping up around it. This is a fairly new product from them. So we did a couple of different things to test it. We will start though by just getting a close look at it and going through some of the product features. So first off, this is a fully enclosed emitter, so that's kind of a neat thing if you are worried about any of their other style, or basically most pistol red dots where you just have an open emitter shining on a lens that reflects back to you. This one is inside of this whole box here. What that translates to is essentially nothing is going to get in front of the emitter. If you have dirt, mud, whatever it is, if you fall down in a puddle of your own blood, it's not going to cover your emitter and make it so you can't see through your optic. It's all self-contained, meaning it should be more reliable, a little bit more durable. Pretty cool. It also still fits on the RMR footprint, so that's also nice. A few of the other enclosed emitters are basically a big brick or mailbox looking thing. You have to have special mounts. That's becoming much more prevalent and normal now, but at first that was kind of a pain in the butt. So this being able to go just to their standard RMR, if you've already got Cylee products or Holosun or anything like that, it'll mate up just fine. Here comes Kimber. So all that being said, the general body and design of the thing is newer for them. They have a few other products like that with a little bit different shape and size, but this is basically supposed to be a large duty grade, fully enclosed. On the side, you probably can't see it from there, but we'll get there with some pictures. You do have a little battery tray, which is very nice. You don't have to take this thing off or anything like that. Also becoming fairly standard, but it also keeps, by having a tray going into the body of the light, or I'm sorry, in the optic, it keeps the side profile from getting really wide, and that helps with both eyes open shooting, doesn't cut down as much of your vision. On the other side of the gun, which doesn't much matter to you because you won't see it, but I'll flip it for my enjoyment, you have your brightness settings and your on-off settings. Fairly basic. They're not huge, but this isn't something you're going to be trying to adjust on the fly in most cases. It does have shake awake, so you can leave this thing on if it sits next to your bed on a handgun or whatever. Pick it up, turns on, cool. That means its battery life is going to last fairly long. I don't know what the exact battery life is so far. I've had this thing for a couple of months and been playing with it quite a bit. Obviously that's not long enough, or should not be long enough in almost any case, to burn through a battery. But I imagine it's going to be, you change it out yearly and life's going to be just fine. Adjustments are very similar to most other dots that you're going to see. Your up and down is located up on the top with a couple of little wings that I'm not sure if that's supposed to just give you like a rear sight reference. It could do that as like a backup, but it also is protective of that setting, so that's kind of nice. And on the side over here, you have your right to left adjustment, also sort of protected by the just geometry of the dot itself. It humps up right there, so not sure what's going to get in there and turn anything, but impacts are going to happen to the body rather than that adjustment screw. Speaking of the body of the thing, we have kind of a wild design. I'll get some more close pictures, but it does have kind of a hump with extra cuts into it, and all of that is supposed to be for drop rating, to basically make this thing bomb-proof. I don't have a gun that I'm willing to throw at the ground. I don't, even if I bought a really cheap gun that I could put an RMR in, I don't have one that I'd throw at the ground. So I think a lot of people get lost in the idea of like, if I can't throw this thing out of an airplane on my super cool operator missions, I don't want it. Most of us that are going to be buying this optic, it's going to see your nightstand, a carry holster during the day. The worst thing it's going to probably see is a bump off of your hip into something. If you're wearing on a thigh rig or something like that, it's going to bounce off your belt a little bit if you're going like inside the waist carry, and God forbid you drop it at the range. Now, It is rated for above the height that the average person would drop it. So unless you've got this thing, you know, hooked up to a lead pistol that weighs like 12 pounds, you know, you drop it off of your giant X-frame Smith & Wesson or something like that, where the weight is going to far exceed what it's supposed to for this thing, then you might see problems. But most people are not trying to throw their optic around. Most people are not trying to drop it. And honestly, I am more interested in if the thing can hold and retain zero through the shock of firing on a gun. So let's get into that talk.
Sucks. That last one's killing me.
Alright, so the first thing that red dot got tested on was this Glock 34 with the MOS setup, because it's the easiest thing I have to mount an RMR plate to. We ran probably 500 to 600 rounds through this with that dot on there, and in my lack of knowledge, ignorance, whatever you want to say, I'm going to guess that being on a pistol slide is probably the most shock any dot is ever going to see, just from the sheer G-forces of being run back and forth at that kind of speed. Throughout those 600 rounds, we sighted in fairly quickly, no big deal. I will say, we'll get into it more when we open up the box and just show you what's going on, but use the tool that they provide, because it's a really weird slot, and just trying to use like a screwdriver that I had wasn't doing it very well, a coin didn't do it very well, so they give you a really handy tool. Bring the handy tool, because I didn't. Anyway, sighted in pretty quickly, ran it through a few drills. One of my new favorite drills that I'll probably do a separate video on is a quick and dirty drill from the Appleseed project, so I'll show you some footage of that. They've got a bunch of different targets, but that one's really good for just baseline comparison of one gun to the next with the same shooter, that kind of thing. But ran really well. The visual while on the gun, like how it looks, again, it doesn't have hugely thick sidewalls. It's a nice large optic window, so you're not, you know, doing a lot of peering through a tunnel kind of thing. It's very easy to shoot both eyes open. Brightness was fine. You can crank it way higher than we needed that day, and it will go down to night vision levels. So running it on this thing did just fine. I didn't do anything weird. I didn't, like I said, I don't have any guns that I really want to throw at the ground, so I did not do any of the extensive drop testing with this thing. Again, I wanted to see what kind of shock it can take just running in average use, because for me this would be an average use item. I'm not going to be jumping out of planes anytime soon or throwing my gun like a boomerang at people and still expecting it to shoot right. So that's just my 2 cents. I'm sure there are other videos out there of people breaking the crap out of it or attempting to. So they say it's rated for it. It ran just fine with the stuff I put it through. But the second thing I put it on,
Gosh.
which, after thinking about it again, I think the handgun probably provides more shock, but we put it on this Benelli Supernova so I could run it with a bunch of buck and slugs, and boy howdy did I run a bunch of buck and slugs. I was a little bit sore the next day, even with the cute squishy pad on this guy. Again, sighting in was pretty simple, but I had to sight in with slugs because buckshot, I mean, you can get the center of a pattern, but you don't really know where the slugs are going to land. Setting up for slugs and then firing buckshot, you're going to be more forgiving there. So, sighting in with slugs, these are just 2 3/4, but they're high velocity, I think like 1,600 feet per second, and an ounce of lead, so they got some punch, and that sighted in fairly quickly. I had basically, when your projectile is like close to 3/4 of an inch, touching holes is not really all that impressive, but had it touching holes at 25 yards fairly quickly without any issue. Ran the crap out of it with a pile of buckshot. We probably run maybe 100 rounds of buckshot and then put slugs back into it to see how that worked, and did some just kind of snap shooting from low ready at fairly small targets and held zero no problem. In fact, I think this is where it's going to live.
that high.
This is so far my favorite setup on this shotgun. Pushes your face just slightly higher than if you were using the irons on the barrel, which when you're running a shotgun, extreme consistent cheek weld is not as big a deal to me as just general not smacking the piss out of myself with buckshot and slugs. So threw a light on the front end of this guy and with this optic, and now it is pretty well rounded out. Got some extra shells on board, but was really happy with the performance of this dot. Didn't have any issues with it whatsoever through all of that shock. Ran great. Now, that's initial. I haven't had this thing for like 2 years. I haven't been beating it around like crazy, and it hasn't seen thousands and thousands of rounds yet. As with the other few reviews we've done for these guys, they're running great so far. I've actually let a buddy of mine borrow one of the just Wolf. I think he borrowed the Wolf 2, and he's been running it for a while and likes it. So that's kind of been the ongoing with it. But I don't have, any real doubts that this is going to be the same thing, if not just a little tougher because of that new design and the fully enclosed emitter. Okay, so let's talk about what's in the box. You get this really cool super American flag looking box. As most people probably know by now, almost all of these optics in this price range are generally coming out of China. Best I can tell. Holosun, Sig Optics, and these guys are all probably coming from similar factories. That being said, this is in a similar price range as most of your other dots. So we're starting to get out of the budget range with this particular entry. I believe on Amazon, I'll throw the price up because you can buy it there, you can buy it on their website and a couple other places, but it's around the $300 mark. That's not super cheap when you can get something like a Delta Point Pro for like $440. I think one of the some of the stuff's still crazy expensive, like Acros are still really high. The newer Sig optic is really high. I think they're around $700. So it's still way cheaper than those are. And I think you're getting a good value. This is probably going to run somewhere in like the Holosun level of pricing. And so far, I'd say the quality is right up there with it. Luckily for me, I have not had to use their warranty service or turn anything back into them that had any defects or anything like that. So maybe someone in the comments, if you've dealt with that, you can kind of add your 2 cents there and let us know how that's going. But so far, these are great. Anyway, back to what's in the box. So everything's labeled all cute and cool. You open it up, they give you a little informative card about zeroing the optic that they've supplied with the other 2 dots that we've reviewed. You have a small manual to tell you how to get through the controls and different info about the optic itself, and then we get into kind of what you're actually worried about. We have a cute little patch, which is always fun. This is the tool I should have brought to the range with me. It has a Torx head on one side for the mount screws, and on the other side has the the flathead that fits very well into their adjustment screws. The ones that I had on the range did not. And it's got a nice little kind of thumb attachment where you can't get too much torque on it, but it is plenty easy to keep in a pocket or something like that. You get a cleaning wipe. And one really cool thing about Cylee that I super appreciate is you get just about every single mount screw you could ever ask for. That's neat. Not many companies and a couple of pistol dots that I've bought are coming with so many different options to make sure you get to mount it to whatever you're trying to mount it to. Different guns. Oh, I left a couple. Like, I swear to God, they've got just about everything you can think of covered. But different guns are going to come with different thread pitches and things like that to mount their optics. So they've given you plenty of options on how to put it to something, which is very cool. Luckily for me, I already had a couple of the screws from the previous dot that was mounted on this shotgun to put it on here. And they had the correct ones for Glock 34 in there. You also get one of these little angled torque wrenches, or an Allen key style torque wrench, and there's like a gel pack in there. It does come with the battery already installed, so you don't have to mess with any of that. Really, they give you everything you'd ever need, so that's very helpful. I'll get close-up pictures of all this stuff, but let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 different bags of mounting screws. One of these, or a couple of these, may have come from one of the other boxes from when I did that, but still, you have a ton of different mounting screw options. And the really nice thing is they give you 3 of all of them, not just 2. So if you butcher one of the threads or drop it and lose it, you've got an extra one. So again, very thoughtful. They come pre-Loctited, or however you want to call that, with thread locker on it. So also very helpful. You don't have to have your own on hand. Most people that are jacking with this hopefully do, but that is entirely up to them. Oh, in case I forgot to mention it so far, it's a CR1620, so like a 2032, real small, which makes sense. You have a very small optic and small battery tray on that guy. I'm gonna cram all this stuff back in there. Don't forget the patch. Oh, you get stickers too. So one of those is on my safe. Anyway, what do I think about this thing so far? If you couldn't tell from watching the rest of the video, this thing appears to be very solid. It has a nice large window size on it. It maintains a narrow profile with the width of the gun and doesn't have big battery chambers on the outside that grow the sight, make it harder to holster, a little bit harder to shoot both eyes open. I don't think many people are complaining. But and with the new completely enclosed emitter design, I think that I would trust this thing a little more than your standard open red dot. Now, do I think most open red dots are going to fall apart and be pieces of crap on you? Not really, unless you're, buying the $50 airsoft looking stuff. But it's an added level of security and dependability. And then with the new design and their drop rating, I think that's all a win. So I would recommend the optic. It is a little on the expensive side for a company that has maybe a little less of the market share. They're not as well known yet. They're getting there. I'm impressed with the build quality. It's as good as the Holosuns that I've had, and that's saying something because Holosuns tend to run really well. So with all that being said, if anyone has any extra questions, throw them in the comments. I'll do what I can to answer that. But thanks for watching Triple F Shooting. We'll see you in the next one.